Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And a place we always seem to return to in our list of spookiest places is our neighbor, Mexico.
Mexico!
That was in my head, too.
But yes, I'm so excited about this one.
Being in Texas all of our lives, we've been close to the country and parts of its culture for as long as we can remember. So when we hear tales of creepy cryptids, brujas, or spirits roaming the streets, it feels a little too close to home and sends an extra chill through our bodies.
It really does. It's y'all know me. If you've been here, native stories and Mexican stories. I believe them all 100%. If you say it happened, I'm like, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did, and I'm scared.
So for the peak of spooky season, we thought we'd bring you some extra frightening stories from our listeners who live in or often visit Mexico. We have stories from all over, some even bleeding over into their homes in the US. So get comfy, grab your tea and blankie, and prepare yourself for a fright.
Ah!
Our tea today is tea with Tae Wedded Bliss. I was influenced.
Were you?
Yeah, I got an ad for it and I was like, sure.
Just buy it. Came in a cool box, though.
It did, and that's what sold me. Let's go. It's an average tea for me, but mostly I don't remember what the flavors were.
I was going to ask
There's
you.
something in it that isn't my favorite, but it tastes fine. It tastes
No,
fine.
yeah, it's not a bad tea, but
it's
I
just
know
not up to the top.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the flavor is in there that I'm tasting, but there's this one little note that I'm like,
It's not my favorite, but not bad. Not a bad tea.
It's really not bad. I like it.
So we said this already, but I think what gets me the most about stories from Mexico is just the proximity. I mean, Texas used to be Mexico.
Literally,
California, like that whole area. Like the only thing separating us from Mexico is this arbitrary line, you know?
Mm-hmm. This made-up imaginary thing.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. And growing up in Texas, our family, our friends, our teachers, our neighbors, a lot of them were from Mexico or had
like their parents were
ties
from
to Mexico.
Yeah.
So these stories are about to freak me out.
In border states anyway, like it's all just like we're all kind of
the same.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously not the exact same. We go through different things, but like our cultures blend.
Yes.
Which is most of America. We're all a blend of nations.
Yes, that is what the idea of America is.
Yes.
Everyone to come to America and live a happy, prosperous life.
Yes. So American culture, and especially border state cultures, are a blend of the two countries. And
yes.
I like that.
Me too. I like the idea of
That's
America.
how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we will go ahead and get into these because they are spooky. And they'll be extra spooky for you. Starting with Evie. Hey, Macy and Natalie. Greetings from Los Angeles, California. And Happy New Year. So they sent this at the New Year. I love your videos and listen when working my office job, which sometimes is not a great idea when I get into a trance listening and viewing the videos. Someone always comes to my cubicle, which scares me since I don't hear them coming. Anyways, I will continue with my story. When I was younger, I went to Mexico and there was a lady at the edge of town that people would say she was a witch that would only come out at night. So my aunt told me not to go near her house. One day I was playing with my cousin from my dad's side on the bikes around the small town and ended up at my cousin's grandpa's house from her mom's side. We went inside his house and were playing in the backyard pretending to play house since her grandpa had a small shed that we would use as a house. We played for like 15 minutes when all of a sudden we heard bells jingling, very low giggles, and whispering. It went on for like 30 minutes, so we got curious and looked over the fence to the neighbor's backyard. This is when we saw the town's witch sitting down on a small table, singing and making some rag dolls, maybe voodoo dolls, dance. But they were floating, not on any strings. As soon as she sensed that someone was looking, the giggles and whispers stopped, and she looked over just in time for us to duck down below the fence. We continued to hear her chanting and laughing as soon as we got inside her grandpa's house, but I left, never wanting to go near there again. From then on, I always paid attention to what side of town I was in, not wanting to end up next to the witch's house. I never said anything to my aunt because I didn't want to get in trouble. Can't wait for what you guys have in store for this new year, 2025. Best, Evie.
Oh my God.
What a spooky little thing to see as a child.
Spooky little thing. That's so scary. That is not a spooky little, oh, we think that house is haunted. That's like,
No, she's like, these dolls
Oh.
are floating around. What was she chanting? I'd like to know that.
and the children's giggling? Did she steal, like, children and put them in those dolls?
Oh, that's dark.
Why are they giggling? Where is it coming from? That's a lot scarier than I think you are realizing at this moment.
Okay,
Because you're
maybe
like,
so.
oh, spooky
No,
little
it is
tale.
scary. I just want to know like what the intentions behind it were. Like, how was she doing this?
Nothing good.
What was she doing this for? What exactly was happening?
I would love if she was just some kind of magical being and she was doing that just to scare people. And she didn't really mean any harm.
I would also really love that.
But I feel like that's not the case. That's who I would be.
The image in my head, which is the scariest, is all of it happening and then stopping immediately as she looked over. That's what freaked me out the most.
That is
Like she saw them.
oh yeah, 100%.
Now, if she was doing whatever she was doing for a good purpose,
Fine.
do whatever you gotta do. I just want to know if it was nefarious or not. Okay, our next story comes from Kelli. Hey, Ghosties, it's Kelli again from Texas. I started listening to your podcast at work, and you've been my saving grace during my busy nanny and household managing days. Since I'm at someone else's house almost 24/7, I needed a good distraction, and y'all have been perfect. PSA, I think I might have haunted the house thanks to your podcast. My nanny kid recently said, quote, the kitchen is ghosted. Funny enough, the kitchen is the only place I listen to y'all, since it's the furthest room from the house and where I feel safe. Nobody knows I listen to ghost stories there, but somehow they're convinced it's haunted now. I've officially started listening to you at my own house too, though I never used to listen to haunted stuff at home because I was afraid of bad vibes. Y'all are just that good. Thank you. Also, I hope your house doesn't get haunted.
I don't think we're scary haunted. I think we bring interesting haunts.
Hopefully.
Let us know.
My grandma used to live in an old hacienda-style home where all the connected apartments shared an outdoor hallway. One night, 5 of us, my cousin, aunt, mom, grandma, and I, were kneeling on a bed praying. Behind us was a mattress leaning against the wall. It was positioned securely so it couldn't fall on its own. As we were praying, the room suddenly felt eerie, like a bad presence was watching us. My grandma began asking for protection, and as soon as she did, the mattress fell on top of us. It felt like something pushed it. We kept praying as my grandma said aloud, quote, I know you don't want me to pray here, but I will. It's one of the creepiest things I've experienced.
What? I thought you were about to say like a tornado came through or something, like just
and
in
it
time.
like protected them?
Yes.
That would be cool, but no, it just fell because it was like, stop praying. To fill the whole room with this feeling, all of you like feel it suddenly, you know?
Something was there.
While you're praying.
That's so...
That feels dark.
It's so scary to be doing the thing that most people, it like brings them comfort and makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
And then you start feeling unsafe in the middle of it.
Yeah, that does freak me out.
That's really scary.
Next, the haunted hotel. My uncle worked as a night guard at a fancy hotel in Monterey, about 30 to 45 minutes from Matamorelos. The hotel, sorry if I said that wrong, please correct me. The hotel had a lounge area on the top floor for staff with a kitchen, a metal rack for pots and pans, a row of computers, and couches. One night while playing video games on the computer, he and some coworkers started hearing strange noises. Suddenly, the pots and pans hanging in the kitchen began moving, then flying off the rack. They were so terrified, they cursed the ghosts, which in Mexico is apparently one way to make them go away. He's had several encounters like this at the hotel, and all his stories are so chilling that they give me goosebumps just thinking about them. Next story, owls and bad omens. Which, this episode was almost a, like, La Lechuza, El Chupacabra, like, other spooky weird things from Mexico episode.
Mhm.
But then I was going to add listener stories at the end, and there were just too many good ones. So I was like, let's just do this.
Mexico part 2, 3, 4, 5 will be here eventually.
I know you guys recently talked about owls, which reminded me of a chilling belief in Mexican culture. Owls are considered bad luck. Some even believe they're witches in disguise. In my family, every time an owl has lingered around our home, there's been a death. When my grandma was a little girl living in Tabasco, Mexico, her father fell ill. For weeks, an owl hung around the house, and her family tried to scare it off. A few days after they last saw the owl, her father passed away. The same thing happened when her grandma died. Though it's sad, owls are often seen as bad omens in Mexico, especially in older rural towns. Luckily, we haven't had an owl encounter recently, but it's a story that's stuck with our family for generations.
We had an owl story once, but it was a really positive one
Oh,
where
at the bird feeder?
yeah, someone's grandpa passed and they caught like images of the owl, and then the night he was going to pass away or he passed away, they heard the owl outside the house.
Yeah. Was it at a bird feeder or was it at a stand, like out in the...
I think it might have been a bird feeder because we were like, why is an owl at a bird feeder? Don't they eat like mice and stuff?
Okay. I couldn't remember. Yeah, I think I like the nice owl stories a little better.
Me too. I'd like to think it's someone's grandpa and not a witch of any kind seeking to do harm.
To cause a bad omen onto your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that freaks me out a little. The graveyard and the black horse. This happened recently in downtown Montemorelos, near Halloween. My uncle owns a glass shop that makes windows and doors, and around Dia de los Muertos, he gets called to repair the little metal and glass doors that families use to protect gravesite offerings. One evening, he went to the graveyard late to measure one of these mausoleum doors. As soon as he entered, he felt an eerie, heavy presence, like something wasn't right. While reading the graves to find the correct one, he heard the sound of a horse. Confused, he looked around, but couldn't see anything. He thought maybe it was his imagination, but then he saw it. A black horse standing nearby. He froze. There weren't supposed to be any horses around, and in Mexican folklore, black horses are considered bad omens. A couple of weeks later, his shop was broken into and a lot of his tools and materials were stolen. Whether it's just a coincidence or tied to the black horse, it's still unsettling. He was so shaken up, he texted our family group chat about the whole experience. That coincidence or not? Was it a real horse? Like did he see a ghostly horse, or was it like a real horse just happened to pop up near the graveyard, you know?
I don't know, because it's not like a normal thing to see horses just roaming the
night
streets. Yeah, because most people,
they'll have their horses with them.
They keep their horses with them, or if the horse gets out, they eventually pretty quickly probably find out and be like, oh, my horse is
yeah,
gone.
So if it's like a ghostly image of a horse and then he got broken into, definitely no coincidence. You can't change my mind.
Or yeah, I don't know.
The shadow in Tabasco. In Tabasco, my grandma and her siblings grew up in a house my grandpa built. Unfortunately, the house was filled with bad energy because of my grandparents' abusive marriage and eventual divorce. My uncle built his own house next door, and a church was later constructed on the other side of my grandma's house. During those difficult times, my family members witnessed a black shadow moving in and out of my grandma's windows and doors. The shadow was most active when the household was at its worst. Though the house was recently torn down and replaced with apartments, the memory of that shadow lingers in my family's stories. The last story from Kelli, one of the scariest stories.
Let me go ahead and put my feet up under this blanket. Thank you.
This happened a few years ago when I was living in our hometown near Monterrey in Nuevo Leon, Mexico. My cousins decided to have a sleepover, and they wanted to sleep outside in a tent. There were 3 older cousins and about 4 younger ones, ranging from ages 3 to 12 or 13. As the oldest cousin at the time, I was 16 or 17. They really wanted me to join them, but I didn't feel like being the babysitter that night, so I stayed inside. My oldest cousin, who's basically like my sister, my best friend, was FaceTiming me at one point while they were all getting settled, telling me how much fun they were having and that they missed me. It was cute, but I was fine staying indoors while they stayed in the tent. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, they decided to tell scary stories. They went through ghost stories and even some of our family's kidnapping stories. Yes, that's a thing. We've got plenty of those, and I can send them to y'all if you're interested. Everyone was feeling a little uneasy afterward, but eventually they all managed to fall asleep. I think hearing a kidnapping story is a lot scarier if you're outside in a tent than hearing a ghost story, in my opinion.
Who sent this? Kelli?
Kelli.
Kelli, how are you going to drop a bomb and be like, if you want to know? We do? I need to know.
But also what?
Expedition. I need to know now. I need to know now. That's so scary.
Horrible. Yeah. Here's where it gets freaky. In the middle of the night, the youngest cousin, who was just 3 years old at the time, started talking in his sleep. At first, everyone thought it was just random mumbling because he was tired, but then he started saying things that didn't make sense. Things like, he's in the corner, or he's right there. The older cousins tried to brush it off, thinking he was just having a weird dream, but then he sat up, eyes completely closed, and started turning his head to look at each of them, one by one. Even with his eyes closed, it was like he was looking directly at them. He then said something like, there's someone here. At that point, everyone was completely freaked out. They tried waking him up, and when they finally did, he had no memory of what just happened. The next morning, they told my aunt what had happened, and she was just as unsettled as they were, especially because this little cousin had never done anything like that before. He usually slept with his parents, and there was no history of sleepwalking or talking in his sleep. It was a one-time thing, but it left everyone completely shaken. To this day, we don't know what it was about, but it still gives me chills every time I think about it. Thank you, Macy and Natalie, for making this a safe space for everyone to share, even though I'm still a little skeptical. Listening to your pod and watching paranormal stuff keeps me entertained. I definitely believe in bad spirits, but I also believe in angels and good spirits. I have so many more stories about Mexican culture, ghosts, and even angels. If y'all ever do another episode about that, I'd love to share more. By the way, the gummy smile and the backflip in the forest are still some of the scariest and funniest stories I've heard from y'all. It's crazy. I thought nothing scary had ever happened to me until y'all dug up memories I'd buried in the back of my brain. Thanks so much for listening to my long stories. I'm sorry it was so long, but if you do read it on the podcast, I'll be the one throwing a backward cartwheel. Haha, stay spooky, Kelli. Send us a video of that cartwheel.
The gummy smile and the backflipping mimic thing
Are also things that stick with us.
I think about them anytime I'm alone, anytime I'm scared. In the mornings, when it started to be dark in the morning time now when I leave, I think about it when I'm walking to my car. I think about it all the time.
Yeah, I don't like
thank
it.
you for bringing it up yet again. No, but seriously, thank you. Wow. That was very nice.
You did have a lot of really weird and creepy. Your whole family had a lot of stories. Okay, our next story comes from Vanessa. Hey y'all, I go to work at 5 a.m. and listening to y'all that early just wakes me up. LOL. Anyways, this is a long email, but I hope y'all enjoy. My family and I live in Austin, Texas, but my parents are from Mexico. Here's some background info. We've gone every year since I was in 7th grade. I'm about to be 24 in a month. But about 2 years ago, we started staying in the home our dad built. We live in San Miguel de Allende, which is very beautiful, so it's a very popular tourist destination. Which, by the way, I looked it up to die for.
Really?
Gorgeous.
Oh,
yes.
Gosh.
Where we live is kind of on the edge of town. Still kind of by the mountains, but close enough to take buses and go walk downtown. We're about maybe a 10-minute car ride from downtown, so we're not that far. Okay, so now this is where the story begins. We went to Mexico last year during Thanksgiving break. It was my parents, my brother, my boyfriend, and I who went, and it was my boyfriend's 3rd time going with us. My boyfriend and I have always felt weird at night at our house, but never in the day. But I decided to not think of that and just leave that weird feeling behind and have a good time. Luckily, the first night we got there, we went to drink with my cousin, and we stayed at her place. However, the first night we stayed at my house scared me completely all over again. My brother, boyfriend, and I sleep in the living room because we still haven't had a chance to build the 2nd floor that's supposed to be our rooms. My parents sleep in their room maybe 10 to 15 feet away, so they're not far from us. We went to bed around 10 or 11 p.m. because we were tired from traveling and drinking, and we called it a night. Let me describe the living room. There's like 5 big open windows and have nothing but metal rods, but no one could physically fit through the gaps. That night, I had this dream where I could see everything exactly the way it was, and I could feel my boyfriend next to me. But there were 2 women, one to my right and the other to my far left. They were floating, and they were super thin, like Kendall Jenner thin. All I could see was their dark outline, while the one on my right held a book or something. I remember the first thought in my mind was that they were witches, and I remember feeling so scared. I'm Catholic, so I started to say my prayers, but nothing would come out of my mouth. I kept on trying, but I just couldn't say anything at all, and that's when the panic started to set in. This isn't the first time something has tried stopping me from praying, by the way. Then I heard my brother say, "Vanessa, are you okay?" And it instantly snapped me right out of it. The women were gone, and I felt like I opened my eyes, but I wasn't so sure. I told him I was fine while I was breathing heavily and catching my breath. I was able to say my prayers this time, and I cuddled up to my boyfriend, and I just felt this warmth hug me. Side note, my boyfriend has always told me he hears and sees stuff while I'm sleeping. He has this positive and radiant energy that just comes off of him, but he's not baptized, so I believe he's more vulnerable to these kinds of things. I thought it was weird that something happened to me and not him. The next morning, my brothers told me that I was mumbling and panicking, but he couldn't understand what I was saying. I never have dreams like this ever, never here or back in Texas. My nightmares are always zombie apocalypse or the world ending and robbers breaking in. I did have one weird dream in this Mexico house, but I'll save that for another time. I told my mom, and she gave me this rosary that had dirt from where Jesus walked on it or something along those lines. I slept with it every night clutched in my hands, and my mom turned on this holy candle and I slept fine the rest of the week. I've got a lot of other scary little things like that have happened to me and my boyfriend in Mexico. I could tell y'all if you'd like. Actually, as I'm writing this, I'm going to go back to Mexico for a week and I'm leaving Saturday at 3 a.m. I really enjoy your podcast and I like how you guys joke around so it's not that scary or intense, if that makes sense. I also love the tea concept because I love drinking tea too. Stay spooky. I find it interesting that usually it's the boyfriend who sees things while she's sleeping, and this time she saw it.
The couldn't pray thing, or like the thing trying to stop you from praying, twice now.
Yeah,
twice
stories.
now in this episode, and we are barely started. What's going on?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Because whenever you're scared or something's going on, that's typically like something that people go to, like they say some kind of prayer or they put out some type of,
like energy or
they say something.
Some kind of incantation, whatever makes you,
what if
gives
you
you comfort.
Yeah, what if you can't?
Yeah.
Then you're just
it's like binding
stuck.
you.
I don't like this at all.
No. What was the book?
I don't
And
know.
why were they there? Our next story comes from Ash, and they've got several stories too. Hello again. I finally found some time to write more encounters I have or my family has had. I've been so excited to tell you guys about these because some have been more recent and all take place in Mexico. Also, I do want to give a slight warning. I drew a picture of what me and my cousin saw, so it's a bit creepy. I don't want to jump scare you guys. And I'm glad you said that because it was at the bottom of the email. And
is it scary?
It's not like super scary, but yeah, like when you pair it with the story, it's like ugh.
Something that we just talked about, like the one in the last episodes last week about
Providing pictures.
Yes, someone put a picture of like, oh, this is what it looked like.
Yeah.
It makes it 10 times scarier.
It gives you like an actual visual.
I'm nervous.
First story, unsuspected visitor. This story was told to me by my dad when he was younger and living in Mexico. My dad and his friend were heading back from somewhere and waited in front of a house to catch a ride to their home area. He states that around this time, it was 3 to 4 a.m. That's when he and his friend had heard someone talking behind them, and when they turned around, it was an old man trying to talk to them. My dad and his friend sparked a conversation for a few minutes. Their ride had gotten there, so they said their goodbyes and both got into the car. When my dad had gotten home, he went to bed and woke up later that day and had an interesting conversation with my grandma. He told my grandma about the man he was having a conversation with and asked my grandma if she knew who he was. Her answer was yes, but in return, she asked him how he talked to that old man, since she got news a bit earlier that the old man had passed away at 10 p.m. the previous night.
I knew it.
So my dad talked to the dead, essentially. He said he wasn't freaked out, but I was when he told me.
I'm freaked out as well.
What did he say? Was it just like a regular like, oh, hey,
how's the weather?
How are you?
Yeah.
Where are you heading?
It's cold outside today. Yeah.
In the area where my mom is from, they celebrate the Virgin Mary for 14 days. I had gone to the majority of the celebrations, so one night I decided to stay home. My family, who was there, ended up going together, so I was the only one staying. The celebrations were at night, so I was kind of freaked out to stay alone, but nonetheless, I stayed. It was a couple of hours into the night, and I remember I was watching H2O, Just Add Water, and was drawing in my sketchbook. Real quick, I want to add in the layout of my cousin's house. Their house is 2 stories and had an outside staircase to get to the top floor, which was their bedroom in a balcony type layout, which you can see over the gate entrance. I was in my cousin's room and I had paused my show to listen to something that was happening outside. Barking. I heard barking, but it was a bunch of dogs I was hearing. I don't know how I managed to go outside on the balcony, but I did, and when I looked over the gate, I saw a bunch of dogs barking and growling to something up the hill. I used to go up there with my family sometimes, and up that hill was somebody's house that is walled off, and from there it makes a right turn down the hill. But these dogs were barking at something around this person's house. They had no animals, and those dogs never gathered there, so this was my first experience. Thinking not much of it, I started walking back to my cousin's room, but I started to hear what sounded like wailing. That was my sign to book it to my cousin's room. I jumped on the bed and turned the volume up on my iPad and tried to block out the sound of the wailing. I was petrified. To make matters worse, I had to wait to use the bathroom since the bathroom was downstairs, and again, the staircase is outside. I waited hours for my family to get back, and when they got back, I was so relieved. I didn't tell anyone the story until we got back to the US since I didn't want to scare my cousins.
The staircase being outside sounds really cool, but also sounds like my personal nightmare.
Especially at nighttime.
There's no way.
No, especially not without a bathroom. Having to go outside. Next story, we felt an evil presence. This event was during the time of my grandma's passing, which was already difficult for my family. So for more stuff to happen that we didn't want to deal with, added on to that. I'm so sorry for your loss. My cousin, Laura, fake name, and I decided to sleep in her parents' room since the majority of the rooms were taken up by our family who came to Mexico for my grandma's funeral. We were watching movies on her MacBook, and it was around the nighttime. While watching movies, Laura and I were talking, and we both randomly got quiet. She expressed that she felt off, and at this time, I too was feeling a sense of fear. I can never put into words how I felt, but to kind of do that, I would say it felt like the back of my neck was getting squeezed, and I felt like I was going to throw up. We paused the movie, and she started to pray, and I did the same. After that, we still felt weird. So the next thing we did was go downstairs and ask my mom for some holy water that they got a couple of days prior. We went upstairs to the room and my cousin grabbed a flower from a flower tree that was growing outside the room and she poured the holy water on it, started splashing around the room while praying. It worked. Whatever was lingering in that area left. My feeling of fear disappeared and we both were able to fall asleep that night. Later on, I read that evil spirits like to feed on people who are at their lowest or in vulnerable states of mind. So it made sense why we were feeling those feelings. Yeah, when you're like low and in grief over, like a death.
Oh, I don't
For
like
it
that.
to come and feed off of you, that is so scary. That just gave me chills in my heart.
That's really, really evil because I didn't even think about that they just lost someone and they're grieving.
Yeah.
That is sick and twisted and I'm not a fan at all.
No. Human eyes. Earlier, I mentioned that we celebrate the Virgin Mary for 14 days. Well, this took place during that time as well. My cousins and I went to the celebration, and we were getting bored and tired halfway through the night. So we all decided we would walk back to their houses. Mind you, the walk back and forth is really creepy at night when people aren't passing by in their motorcycles and lighting up the street. The street lights didn't do much, but make it creepier. We were halfway to the house when I looked back and saw this dog. In Mexico, there are a bunch of street dogs, which is normal, but this dog was off. Its shape looked off and its eyes were something I've never seen before. I've seen huskies with black eyes and they never creeped me out. This dog's eyes looked more human-like. The outside was black and the iris was white. Its torso looked oddly long and the legs looked wonky, like it wasn't used to walking on four legs. It looked more so like a person walking on all fours, where their tush is more upward and their shoulders being more downward. I turned around and told my cousins to walk faster. They were confused, but listened. I kept looking back, and that's when my cousins also turned around. It was stalking us. It was moving behind parked cars and peeking at us. My older cousin, Dana, fake name, said out loud, "What the actual F? Why does it look like that?" I told her I don't know, but I don't like how it looked, and that we should book it to the house. We did so, and made it back home safely. We talked about it afterward, but I was too creeped out by how it looked that we didn't talk about it anymore. The photo above is what its eyes looked like. I couldn't draw the body, but the face and eyes I could. Also, my family walks the path to the area of the celebration all the time, and we see the dogs often, so we know all of the dogs that stay in the area. The dog we saw that night, we never saw afterwards. I'm going to Mexico later this year, so I'm going to try and see if I can find it, or maybe run into more creepier situations. Nonetheless, I will keep note if anything does. That's all the stories I have that take place in Mexico from me and my dad. I'm sorry if it was a bit lengthy, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do have more, so let me know if you guys would want to hear those. Have a blessed year. The fact that it looks human-like, I'm literally on the verge.
On all levels besides physical, I am a wolf.
wolf.
But no, seriously.
Oh, goodness.
That's really, really... And honestly, though, even if it was a person just doing that, pretending to be a dog, that's scarier. I don't know.
I would say so.
I'd rather
But
it be some dog creature.
My mind was like shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
I was like trying itself out in a dog body.
Yeah, no, I hate it a lot.
Maybe it didn't get the whatever
Like the
it needs to
walking?
do right to shift all the way into a dog,
Would you shapeshift if you could?
Yeah.
What would you shapeshift it to?
Anything. I don't know.
Inanimate objects or just living things?
Literally everything. If I could shapeshift, yeah. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I'd practice all the time. I'd be sitting on the couch here and suddenly I'm a lamp.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more story. It is a long one, but it is a really creepy one. This story is from Marisol. Hey girls, I'm Marisol from California. I just started listening to the pod and I have been binging, lol. Since I started listening to everyone's stories, I've realized I've blocked out a lot of memories from when I was younger. So I'm sorry if this is confusing or if I don't explain it right. The more I think back, the more I remember. Not sure if that is the best thing in the world, but oh well. Also, sorry, it's going to be long. If this makes it into the podcast, you can pick and choose what you'd like to share. Oh, we share everything. Okay, so some backstory, as well as some family trauma dumping. So sorry. When I was about 3 years old, my parents separated for a bit of time. My mom stayed in California with my 2 older brothers, my sister, and myself, while my dad left and went back to Zacatecas. And they put in parentheses, you do not have to pronounce that. You can just say Mexico. Hey, I gave it a try.
I like that they acknowledge
Yeah. My
inability to pronounce things in another language.
Or most languages.
Because I also possess that inability, and I'm glad I don't have to do it for the world to see.
To cut a very long story short, my dad got a woman from the Pueblo pregnant. He was warned by everyone in the Pueblo that she was dangerous and that he needed to leave immediately. My dad tried to talk to the lady, let's call her P. He wanted to be a part of the baby's life, but he had decided that he was going to be coming back to California to get back together with my mom because he loved her and he missed her and his kids. From the stories I've heard from my dad's side of the family, she did not take that news well at all. Not that I blame her. But what my dad did not know was that she was the Bruja del Pueblo. She practiced some pretty dark forms of witchcraft. From my family's recounting of the story, he will still to this day not talk about it. She told my dad that she was going to curse him and all of his kids, that we would not know happiness and he would always be followed by darkness. My dad has never been one to believe the stories, so he kind of just brushed it off and told her he would be in contact through family to know about their baby. When he came back home, everything went back to normal. My mom ended up pregnant pretty soon after he came back. Everything seemed to be okay, but very gradually, my dad's drinking got worse and worse. My mom describes my dad's anger as if he were overcome by a devil. He became more and more aggressive as time went on. The darkness in my dad seemed to be at a peak once my little brother was born. We used to live on top of a canyon, and down at the bottom of this canyon, we had a family home where a lot of my aunts and uncles would get together and drink heavily. My dad would spend the majority of the time down there where he would get so drunk he would not be able to speak or even hold himself up. Well, one of those nights, he decided to take off to the house at the bottom of the canyon, and that's when weird stuff started happening, specifically to me. Like I said before, we lived at the top of the canyon in a little 2-bedroom apartment. My brothers and sister would spend a lot of time at our aunts and uncles' home with my cousins since they were older. I am very attached to my mom, so I would always stay back with her to help her with my little brother. Not that I could do very much to help at 5 years old. This night is one of the only occurrences I vividly remember. I have always adored animals. We would always find strays that were dumped in the canyon, and my parents would either let us keep them or take them to the family house at the bottom of the canyon. So when a cat started crying loudly at the front window of our apartment in the middle of the night, and I'm talking about 2 to 3 a.m., of course I wanted to open the door and let it in. And when I say this cat was crying, I mean full on screaming to the point I could not watch my movie. I knew my mom was tired and sleep deprived. My little brother had woken us both up all throughout the night, but I still went into her room and asked her if she could hear the cat. She very sleepily replied that she didn't, but if there was a cat outside, to not let it in because my brother was too little for a stray to be taken in. It seemed like after that, the crying got worse and worse. I decided to wait until my mom fell asleep, and then I could go outside and at least comfort the little cat.
No, I would do it, but don't.
They're only 5.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Once I knew my mom was out, I unlocked the front door and made my way out. As soon as the cat saw me, it stopped crying and waited for me to take a couple of steps toward it before jumping down from the window's ledge and taking off down the stairs. Thinking that it had just taken off, I turned to go back inside before I heard the cat crying again. I can't explain the feeling, but I felt like I needed to go to it, and there was no way I could go back inside. So I shut the front door and quickly made my way to the stairs. Our car, that was parked directly in front of the stairs, was surrounded by at least 8 cats. All of them were quiet and only stared at me, while the one that had been at my window took a couple of steps towards me and sat at the bottom of the steps. I felt tugged to it. I knew it was dangerous to leave the steps that late at night, and my parents would be mad, but I couldn't just leave it. As soon as I took the first step down, all of the cats that were surrounding our car just vanished. But the one that I had originally walked outside for just walked up to me. I remember it being an all black cat, and when I picked it up, I remember it being so light. And then I started walking. There was only one thought in my mind. I need to get this cat to my friend. She could help. Only problem was, she lived on the other side of the block, where the canyon was a bit heavier and darker. We didn't have the best neighborhood. A lot of homeless people and drug addicts would sleep on the trail by the canyon, and I knew that. But it's like I was on autopilot and couldn't stop myself from walking away from my house and heading that direction. I remember being so cold. It was the latest I had ever been outside, and I could hear my breathing as I walked with how silent it was. There was not a single person that was outside, but I wasn't scared. It's like I had no thoughts. I just kept looking down at the cat in my arms that would not look away from me. Halfway to my friend's house, I could see a large shadow heading my way. It was stumbling around and seemed to almost be running towards me. The cat in my arms looked from me to the figure and started thrashing in my arms. I remember holding on as tightly as I could. The once light cat became heavy and I could barely hold it up now. I was so confused and whispered to the cat, "It's okay, he's not bad," and kept walking towards the figure. The closer I got to the figure, the calmer I was, but the more the cat was thrashing. Hearing my name called out, I glanced up at the figure that now came into view with the streetlights. It was my dad, pale and out of breath. I had smiled up at him and tried to hold up the now eerily still cat in my arms to show him. He took one look at the cat and scruffed it, snatching it from my arms and tossing it to the side. I quickly went to go after it again, but when I looked to where he had tossed it, it was gone. I was livid. I tried to explain to him that I was just trying to get it to safety and that he had scared it off. My dad picked me up and literally ran us back to our house. He woke up my mom and could barely get the words out that he had found me outside in the dark talking to her. Once again, I tried to explain that it was just a scared cat, but neither of them wanted to hear me. My mom was so confused as to why the door alarm didn't go off as well, since she had set it to go off knowing that I was awake so late by myself in the living room. To say the least, they were both freaked out and would not explain to me as to why. Time passed by and they still would not talk to me about that day, until I got a little older and brought it up when we were at my auntie's house. As a joke, I laughed about how my dad had found me with my little black cat. The reaction from my auntie still gives me the chills today. Her face was pale and her hands shook as she told me to not joke about that, especially not in front of my dad. She finally explained to me that my dad had been the drunkest she had ever seen him that night, that she, along with my uncles, had to carry him to the couch, and that when she turned to grab some blankets for him, he had shot up and without even looking at her, said that something bad was going to happen and ran out the front door. She had chased after him, telling him to get back before he hurt himself, but he was already running up the canyon barefoot. She was freaked out that a second ago he could barely hold himself up and now he was running up the canyon muttering that he had to get there before something bad happened. My dad came back the next day to grab his things, and that's when my dad broke down and told her he had found me walking towards the entrance to the trail of the canyon, talking to an all-white cat with a human face. Her face.
Oh my God.
He finally talked to her about how P had cursed him and us, that she held resentment towards me since I had been one of the reasons why my dad wanted to come back to California. My auntie tried to talk him down from it, but she had also heard of P, and she knew how serious the brujeria she practiced was. She told my dad to go to church and clean himself of whatever she had put on us. But my dad had only gotten worse from then. I've had some pretty horrible situations happen with my dad's side of the family, and he would drink and cry to my mom that he was the reason why everything was happening to me. That P had made contact with me, and now because of him, she got to me. I always just took it as a drunk rambling and never paid much attention to it, but it was starting to all come together the more my auntie talked to me about it. To say my mom was pissed when I brought it up to her is a serious understatement. My mom believes that there is power behind thoughts. She took me having this information as giving P more power over me and my dad, but I felt like I could finally talk to her about all of the weird things that were happening to me. While we lived in the apartment by the canyon, I slept in the same room as my parents. I had a little bed off to the side of their bed where I could stare directly at my dad. On the nights when my dad didn't drink and we had a good family day, when the darkness that clouded my dad wasn't so heavy, I would wake up, always around 2 to 3 a.m., and every time there would be a small dark figure that would stare at my dad sleeping. It had something that it would hold onto, something sharp, but I could never make it out. It would stab at my dad, and I could feel a dark happiness coming from it, causing my dad pain. And then it would look at me and laugh, teasing me by going to stab at my dad and looking back to me, waiting for me to cry. Anytime this would happen, I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, and I could not cry until it decided I could. By that time, I would be exhausted and fall asleep crying. Because of how unwell my dad was, I never brought it up to them. And on the days my dad would stay out drinking, there was always a white owl that would sit in the tree outside of our apartment and just stare into our house. My mom was seriously creeped out and put dark curtains up to block the view, but I would always hear it right outside the window. When I try to think of the owl's face, I can't, but according to my mom and dad, that owl had P's face. This is what I've come to learn is called a lechuza, a shape-shifting bruja that preys on drunks and children.
I didn't know that's what that was.
Yeah.
And I'm very frightened.
It would always stay outside until my dad came home. We would hear it screech and then fly off. Anytime I would be outside too late by myself, I would see it fly over me. My mom, who was finding her faith again, told me that anytime I felt something dark or wrong, to pray, to talk to God, and if I was not open to the spirits to make it known, I do not welcome them, and I do not want to see them in the name of God. After that, it slowly went away. I still had some weird situations happen, but I would talk myself through it and make it known that I am a child of God and to leave me alone. My dad turned his life around a couple of years after I had that talk with my mom. He started going to church and the drinking stopped almost immediately. He still has some dark moments when he remembers everything he put my mom and us through, but we work through it with him. When I started listening to your podcast, it brought up a lot of the paranormal things that I went through, and I decided to talk about it with my mom. About how much my dad's life changed when he went to church, how the paranormal things that were happening to us seemed to stop once my dad took church seriously. Now that I'm older, my mom's a bit more open about how many paranormal things she has gone through. So we had a heavy conversation about it. But when I brought up P, my mom told me that my dad's side of the family that still lives in the Pueblo had called him years ago. They told him that she had run out into the streets of the Pueblo, screaming that she was on fire, that she was burning alive. There was no sign of any fire touching her, but this had happened the day my dad decided to go to church and have them pray over him and us. So yeah, that's a bit of my family haunting. It has seriously gotten a lot better the older we have gotten. We still have some weird stuff happening here and there. My brothers are constantly being told they need to have a cleanse because it still lingers. But my mom has warned them to not open themselves to any kind of brujeria. I have sleep paralysis. It was pretty bad for a while, to the point where I know how to calm myself enough to wake up. I learned to never open my eyes until I know I can move my body unless I want to see the Hat Man. Because yes, I have also seen him. A story for another time. This is already a novel. I recently moved out and live alone with just my dog and have started to see the white owl again. But my dog is the most protective little butthead ever, and I know how to protect myself spiritually, if it ever comes to that. If you've made it this far, thank you for reading. I don't think it's too spooky, but anytime I try to talk about it with my friends, they immediately shut it down. So I thought you girls would like it. I'd say it's pretty dang spooky.
I don't like that we're doing, like, the spooky owl episode. Like, owls.
I should have just gone all in about La Lechuza, but
yeah, because I didn't know about that. We need a whole episode.
I do. It's on the list.
Because I need to know more about that. I don't like animal bodies with human heads. What do you think is scarier? Having a human head with an animal body, or having an animal head with a human body?
I think human face on an animal body.
You think so?
Definitely.
Even if it's like a smaller animal, like a cat?
Like if I saw a cat with the face of a person,
but
especially a person I know, no.
Does it get that big, or is it just like, how does that work?
I would imagine it's the same, like it's to fit the head.
So it's just your face smaller down to a cat size?
I would imagine. That's what I pictured anyway. That's much scarier. To see someone's face I know on an animal body.
Yeah, that is actually really scary. That is really scary. So never mind.
That story, Marisol, that is freaky.
That's really
I read
scary.
that story and I immediately put it last because I was like, we got to end.
That's a good one to end
big. Yeah. Because that was so scary to me.
This was all very spooky.
It felt very spooky to me.
And I believe every single one of them. Do you?
Yeah. I usually give our listeners the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to read in first, like believing.
Same. But I mean, just because like what'd you say?
La Lechuza?
That's real. I don't care. That's real.
You believe it? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do a full episode because I know very little information about it. So thank you to all of you who sent in your emails. Thank you to the stories from Mexico because we appreciate it. So if you'd like to send in your story, if you've been to Mexico, live in Mexico, have family in Mexico, and you have a really creepy story you want to send us, please do. It's our email, ghostiespod@gmail.com. Like this video if you liked it, share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so, and subscribe for more. We've got another listener stories coming on Thursday.
We do.
And now that it's out in the open, another episode coming on Friday.
With costumes.
We've had a couple of good guesses from last Friday. Also you can join our Patreon. We have an episode, a researched, very spooky, creepy, like will give you nightmares kind of researched episode coming this Monday. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I don't
coming
like it.
today.
Oh yeah, today.
It's out today on Patreon.
So patreon.com/ghosties if you want to check it out. If you don't want to pay for the whole month, I've also put our Monday episodes for sale. So if you just want to buy one and you don't care about anything else we have to say, you can also do that. Totally fine with me.
Yep.
Other than that,
See ya.
bye.